The question should have been harmless. Instead, it changed the way I looked at my own life. I had opened the guest room door for my best friend's visiting sister, expecting nothing more than a polite thank you. But when she placed her suitcase beside the bed, looked at me with a quiet smile and asked, "Which side is yours?" I suddenly realized that sometimes a person can walk into your home without warning and somehow make you see how lonely you have been living. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can heal old wounds, hope can find people in unexpected places, forgiveness can change a life, and everyone deserves a second chance. Please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need a little hope today. My name was Caleb, and I lived alone in a modest house outside Portland, Oregon. 3 years earlier, I had lost my wife, Hannah, after a long illness. There had been no dramatic goodbye, no perfect final conversation, only a quiet morning when I realized the person I loved most was no longer coming home. Afterward, I became very good at functioning without actually living. I went to work, paid my bills, kept the house clean, and answered my friends when they called. But every evening, I ate dinner at the same end of the kitchen table, and every night I slept on the same side of the bed because the other side still felt like it belonged to someone. My closest friend, Nathan, knew I was stuck, even though I never admitted it. One rainy Friday afternoon, he called and explained that his younger sister, Rebecca, was flying in from Denver for a few weeks. Her apartment lease had ended unexpectedly, and she needed somewhere peaceful while she searched for a new job and place to live. Nathan asked if she could stay with me. I hesitated, then looked around my silent house and agreed. I told myself I was simply helping a friend's family member. I didn't realize I was about to help myself, too. Rebecca arrived the next morning carrying one suitcase, a small canvas bag, and an expression that seemed determined to hide how exhausted she was. She was warm without being overly familiar, careful not to take up too much space. I showed her the guest room, explained where the towels were, and apologized for the plainness of everything. She smiled and said the room was more than enough. Then she walked to the window, looked out at the backyard, and asked which side of the bed was mine. I laughed awkwardly and told her that my bedroom was across the hall. She looked at me for a second longer than expected and said she hadn't meant the room. She meant the house. Which side of the house was mine? I pointed toward the kitchen and told her I usually stayed there or in the little reading room. She smiled and said, "You sound like a man who has divided his house into places where he is allowed to exist." Her words hit harder than I expected. Over the next few days, Rebecca never tried to fix me. She simply brought life back into rooms I had stopped noticing. She played quiet music while making coffee. She opened curtains I always kept closed. She placed fresh flowers from a grocery store on the dining table. One evening, she found an old photograph of Hannah and me tucked inside a drawer. Instead of avoiding the subject, she asked me about her. For the first time in years, I told someone stories about my wife without feeling like I was drowning in them. Rebecca eventually told me why she had needed a place to stay. Her career had fallen apart after a company downsizing, and a relationship she believed would become permanent had ended shortly afterward. She had spent months pretending she was fine. She said losing everything at once had taught her that pride could become a very expensive thing. I understood her immediately. We were different people carrying strangely similar emptiness. One Sunday morning, while rain tapped against the windows, Rebecca suggested we attend Nathan's church together. I almost refused. Faith had become complicated for me after Hannah died. But something in Rebecca's gentle invitation made me say yes. That morning, the pastor spoke about how grief does not mean love has ended, and how sometimes healing begins when we stop protecting ourselves from every possibility of being hurt again. On the drive home, neither of us said much. When we reached the house, Rebecca stood beside the front door and looked at me. She said she had noticed something during her stay. I asked what. She said I had spent years preserving a home for someone who was gone instead of building a life for the person who remained. Her words stayed with me. That evening, I finally opened the bedroom curtains. I moved the old boxes into storage. I replaced a broken lamp. I didn't erase Hannah from my life. I simply stopped treating my memories of her like a prison. Rebecca noticed the changes but never congratulated herself. She just smiled. 2 weeks later, she found a small apartment across town and prepared to leave. I expected the house to feel empty again. Instead, it felt different. Not because Rebecca had transformed it, but because she had reminded me that I was allowed to transform it myself. At the doorway, she hugged me and thanked me for giving her a room when she needed one. I told her the truth. She had given me something too. She had reminded me that kindness doesn't always arrive as a grand gesture. Sometimes it arrives with a suitcase, stands in your hallway, and asks a simple question that forces you to look at the life you've been avoiding. If this story touched something inside your heart, please support it with a like, share it with someone who may need hope, and subscribe for more stories about kindness, healing, and second chances. And before you go, I want you to leave a comment answering this. Have you ever met someone who entered your life for a short time, but changed the way you saw yourself forever? Sometimes the people we think we are helping are quietly helping us too. Months later, Rebecca and I remained close friends. Nothing was rushed, promised, or forced. We simply kept showing up for each other. And one evening, as we sat on the porch watching the Oregon sky turn soft with sunset, I realized something Hannah had taught me without ever saying it. Love is not measured by how long someone stays. Sometimes love is measured by what they leave behind. Rebecca had left flowers on my table, laughter in my kitchen, and courage in a heart that had forgotten how to hope. And for the first time in years, when I walked into my bedroom, I didn't think about which side belonged to the past. I simply chose where I wanted to sleep.